Hey Soul Family, we back. Gonna elaborate a little bit on my last video. If you haven't watched it, maybe check it out after this. That is all about obedience to the Lord and being a sacred rebel, and basically transmuting that energy of our rebellion and channeling it towards rebelling against oppressive systems by being obedient to Creator. And I want to elaborate on that deeper because I feel like some of the language I used in my last video alluded to the Godhead being this masculine figure in the sky, and I really don't want to be painting that picture, or creating that more of that distancing or I don't know, sort of like patriarchal experience of our God. And it came in very loud and very clear after my last video to stop referring to God as a him and to actually refer to God, Creator, Spirit, as a they, because it truly is a trinity, a trine, a council that I'm connecting with when I am bringing forth the light of God through my being in my vessel. And that is, Mother God, Father God, and the divine child, all in cohesion and in unity and union, and taking their seat at the throne, at the table, and informing and advising me from that place of relationship. So God in relationship with itself, and then, that key piece of like living within us, being in relationship with that in us. And so being a part of God, not God in its entirety, but being connected to that source of creation, and that source being, the love between the mother and the father, and the creation, the blueprint of innocence that they birth through the divine child or through the Christ, and how that moves us as creation. So I'm going to be doing my best to mind my language and to not slip back into the old ways, even though I know how I'm relating with it. I want to speak to source, in a language and in a way that actually represents how I'm experiencing that and how I think a lot of us are experiencing that. And obviously everybody's relationship with God is so unique, and so I'm not here to project that onto anybody, but I know even for me, I was getting triggered. I'm like, stop saying him. God is not just a him, or maybe a him at all, right? And so really connecting with God too as a frequency that's beyond even the mother, father, child archetype, but just like this effervescent, permeating love that's weaving itself as a tapestry through all of creation. And so I really want to get clear on that, and that's what we're connecting to and speaking to, and the place we're speaking from. And from there, I want to continue to elaborate on what it means to be in obedience to that, because I even have a hard time myself with that word obedience. Like, it automatically triggers me to want to rebel. And I think I even want to maybe replace the word obedience to devotion, and being in devotion to the Creator, and the Creator that gave us life, but also the Creator within. And so for anyone who is struggling to connect with what I was saying in my previous video, I hope that this can be even a better bridge, because I know how deep this religious trauma goes, and just how we all need to have different ways of warming back up into deepening our relationship with God, with Creator, with Spirit, with the Most High. Like being a servant, right? Being a humble servant to the Creator within us, and what the benevolent one in us, the loving one in us that wants to create a better world and create more beauty in this world, what that being or that force wants to bring forth into this life. And then just being at the feet of that, like, okay, how can I be of service and help you bring these visions to life and seed them and manifest them into reality? And that's a step by step. We hold hands with that creative direction that comes from God and the Most High within us that we then translate through our creations. And that is the master we are serving. In co-creation, not in this hierarchical way of this being above us, barking orders at us, but in this way of sitting in that council, being in that relationship. And I really imagine, in the way that I have these conversations with my higher self, or with, you know, this being that's bringing this new blueprint through me, is sitting at like a child at the feet, and just sitting in front of this family and speaking my prayers of like, what would you have me do? How would you have me serve? And so often I'm responded to that with a question, and I'm invited to come to my own answers. Like, what would you like to do, Shakina? What lights you up? What makes you feel alive? We want you to do that. And making sure that you're doing that with the right intention. And if that starts to become more submersed in an egoic thing, like, we will lovingly bring you into correction, you know. And then, okay, I want to do this. Okay, so like, how are some action steps that you can start to implement a plan to bring that to life? And like, how can we support you? Like, this is the way that God is asking us to be quote unquote obedient, or a co-creator in this. And I really want to speak to this because I feel like there's, on both ends of spirituality and religion right now, there's some distortion about, I think, manifestation and creation and what we are serving at large. Either the self, the ego, the separate identity of, I am creating this thing, I'm manifesting this car, this house, this whatever. And that actually just feels so disconnected, like, from the collective at large and the heart of God for me, and actually quite selfish. And in my last video, I even kind of tied that back to Satanism, because the basis of Satanism is freedom for the self to do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, however it wants, with whoever it wants, despite universal law. So that's like one extremity. But then the other one that I think we all need to be mindful of, and that's something that I've seen push people away from Christianity at large, is this idea of like, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm not responsible. I fully surrender all my responsibilities. Like, God's just going to do it for me. And I've even seen some of that in the New Ageism and the spirituality as well, of like, well, I'm just going to give this to the universe and fully trust. And then there's no actually like grounded action that's taken to build the foundation for that and put in the work that we have to do. Because as a part of universal law, something I've definitely witnessed in all successful people on this planet, it is not about morality, actually. For those of us who care about the salvation of our soul, it is, but not everybody cares that much for that and just wants what they want in this life. And the thing is, so many people that are not necessarily the most good-hearted people, they just have the right systems in place where they're consistent, they show up every day, they put in the brute force, and even if it's taxing on them, they do what they have to do to get something done. And even if they don't have the full go of the angels or their spirit team or guides or support system, like, that consistency and that drive and that motivation and even that belief in themselves allows them to create something on this planet. And so those of us who are good-hearted, who want to see the whole world thrive, aren't just serving ourself and our selfish desires. We also have to be as hungry as the people that want what they want for themselves, that are greedy, that want to develop over all the stargates on the planet and build these synthetic matrices and grids and just snuff all of our agriculture and waterways and continue polluting everything. Like, we have to be adversaries for this planet and for our dreams and for the things that we love. And we have to take action, and we have to take that responsibility. And boots to the ground, like get into it so we connect into the higher vision that God gives us. And we do that even daily because that's our pillar, that's our foundation, that's what keeps us on the straight and narrow, that's our North Star. And when we connect in with that, we are given instruction, and that is to what we are being quote unquote obedient to or following. And in that instruction, we find ourselves, even when it's hard, we remember this is what it's for. This is the mission. I've dreamed of having a lifetime love. And even though this conversation's hard, like, I got to do this. You know, I've dreamed of building this business and it's starting to thrive, but it's a moment of expansion. And this is going to push me in ways that I don't feel comfortable with. But like, I know what I'm doing this for. And we have to be as convicted in that as people who are malevolent are convicted in taking from the planet, right? So we're here to create in that good way, in that communion with this Trinity, this force of love, this energy, this source, this divine family, this higher self, whatever you need to call it, or however you want to connect to it. Serve, be in devotion, and maintain obedience to that, because when we do that, religious or not, spiritual or not, you're building trust with yourself, and you're actually building the foundation of a system. And as long as you're consistent with that system, resources and energy is going to have a place to flow and grow through the channels that you are carving with your consistency. Now we're getting into just like the science of it. We're habitual beings. That's our divine technology that we have, our human technology in our bodies. And so we have the power and the ability to create and update our habits and update our belief systems. And in that, we can literally do anything, which is so amazing. That means we're totally free. And that's such good news. And yeah, creating those new neurological pathways, right, give us access to new ways of being, new systems within ourself, that as the microcosm can start to trickle into the macrocosm and can start to create new, more sustainable and long-standing systems for our planet that actually consider the whole. And the foundation in which we lay that is going to come from that instruction set and that instruction manual that starts here in the high heavens and then comes into our body and drops into our body. And then we are actually the living codex for our body, actually guides us and tells us, okay, this is working, this is not working, through the sensitivities in our nervous system, through what feels naturally exciting and igniting and what feels draining and depleting. And that, again, that's what we're being obedient to. Our own body, our own temple, our own ability to intuit what is right for us and what feels right at large. No one is sacrificed in this next wave of humanity. The sacrifice was made when Christ was laid on the cross. The blood of the Lamb has been shed so that nothing has to be sacrificed ever again. That is the gift that Christ gave us. And whether you believe that or not, that has happened. And if you want to continue down a path of martyrdom, you can, but it's just not necessary. So there's an easier way, and that easier way looks like people just living in their highest bliss and joy and co-creating their life of their wildest dreams with God's, but that comes through discipline, action, consistency, doing the hard thing. And that comes from strength and conviction in our vision and our connection to what we are here to bring forth as creator. And those of us who are creating from that benevolent space and that connection to our higher self, to God's source, to love, and that vision for the planet, that is the path that we walk in the straight and narrow. That is the true north. And so I hope that this video is just bringing some of what I said in the last video that might have felt kind of extreme into like a more integrated perspective, because I know how many of us, grew up in the church, grew up in religious traumas, went way far away from that into New Ageism and spirituality, and are now being called back to Christ. But like, what does that look like, right? Like, how do we talk about this now that we've been to both ends of the spectrum, through heaven and hell, and touched, all of these different just extremes within our being. And so I'm doing my best to communicate the ineffable mystery of God, source, creator, and what we are bringing here as the new humans to this earth, and trying to make this relatable for people who, are following Christ, are more in the Christian dogmatism, are in the church, and also for the people that have been finding God just in nature and through their art and through their communities and through music and in these more avant-garde ways, I guess, of connecting to something bigger than themselves. I think that's most of what I wanted to bring forth today. Oh, I think just one more thing to really bring it all home. Why I feel so convicted in sharing my love for Christ, particularly, and my love for God, is because what happened when Christ gave his life on the cross? There was a activation that happened in the DNA codex of all of humanity in that moment. One that allowed for all of us to tap in and access the greatest levels of forgiveness, no matter how grave the betrayal. It allowed us to access a strength. It allows us to access a strength within our own beings to overcome the most awful of atrocities, the most brutal crucifixion that anyone could possibly go through happened. The most ultimate sacrifice, the most ultimate betrayal. And in Christ overcoming that and overcoming the world in that, we now have access to that within our own human genetics, our own human vessel, our own human body, our own human experience. If you read the gene keys, there is a gene key that talks about this, and I forget which one it is, but it's basically the code of infinite potentiality. And when this city or this gift is activated in our genes, that means that anything that another human being has lived or done is available to us, whether or not we have gone through what they had to go through to access that. I'll give an example of a friend who's had this experience. He had a near-death experience, was in a coma, and when he came back, he was kind of like a savant at the guitar, and he had never picked up a guitar in his life. But part of this gene key got activated for him, and this past life gift was activated for him. And so now he just had the ability to do this without ever having to, in this lifetime, practice guitar every single day. This means that a person could sit down, if this was activated in them, at the piano and play Beethoven and just know how to do that because Beethoven did that. This is where we are heading as humanity. This is how our ascension is accelerating us. And this is what the Christ line DNA is starting to bring to life in us. And that lineage, that Yeshua and Magdalene, and even all of the different immaculate conceptions that happen in the Essene community around the time of his birth, those bloodlines have maintained the original encodement and seed codex of our God code to be able to access all of these things. So it is in choosing to come back to that. And the way that we bring, in my understanding, the way that we bring these things online in our body, there's so many ways that we can do that. But honestly, the easiest ways is just to be and embody love, to be and embody presence, to keep our eyes, our heart, our mind, our mind's eye fixed on God and to stay relaxed and to just allow these activations, these celestial activations that are happening to happen, and then integrate them through our good work. And listen, when God says, go out into the sun, you don't know what kind of codes are being transmuted to those rays. Just go listen. When God says, drink this water now, go to this place, eat this food, there are activations that can happen in different places on certain bodies of land. And there's so much interplanetary connection and energy that's moving through the ley lines of the earth that are connected to our bodies as well. And so there's upgrades that are just happening, and we don't have to do anything about it really, but like we can be co-creating and facilitating this rise of humanity, of the planet, and within ourselves by just staying in alignment with this love. And again, that is bringing it back home to this idea of like, what are we being obedient to our rise, to our well-being, to the creation of heaven on earth and this planet. And so deep listening to what that is. And even if it doesn't make sense, it didn't make sense for Noah to build the ark, but he did it anyway, and he saved the world. It might seem insane. So much of what we're going to be asked to do as leaders of ushering in the new earth is not going to make sense to us at the time. We have to just walk in faith. And faith is another act of being obedient and being submissive and being in service and in devotion to this grander vision and grander plan that we are only a mere part of. And so just like humbling ourselves to not get into some weird satanic new age shit of like, I am the ultimate manifester and creator of our reality, and also empowering ourselves out of the old dogmatic Christian perspective of Jesus take the wheel, and finding our place in service to this very integrated idea of what the Godhead truly is, how it lives in us, and how it's interconnected to all things, again, through this tapestry that is woven through each one of our bodies and this planet and every single living thing in creation that is communicating with itself, that has been protected over the eons to maintain its original essence. So tapping into that, doing what is right to stay connected to that, people. This is prophecy. This is choosing tree of life over tree of knowledge. That's something I'm going to get into so deep in my next video, but I just want to tap a pulse on that. And I'm going to ask a question and we're going to end this. Isn't it ironic that in the story in the Garden of Eden, the fall of man happens when they take the bite of the apple? And that the back of our phones has a bitten apple on the back of it. And that with ChatGPT and having this little supercomputer in our pockets, we have access to all knowledge and information. And that this weird synthetic technology is interfacing with our pineal gland, our third eye, our brain, syncing up to our brain waves. Yeah, that's a conversation. That's a conversation for another time. But I'm going to close this here. Thank you for whoever listened and stayed. I really hope that this video attracts the right people that it is meant for, that are ready to receive this information, and maybe that it brings some clarity from my last video, and also just like a deeper encouragement to really overcome our resistance to whatever it is we're being asked to do right now, again, as leaders and kings and queens and servants in the kingdom that are ushering this new golden age together. And so whoever I am here with to do that, thank you so much. I know that it's not easy. Let's stick together. Let's support each other, co-facilitate this rise. We are on the same team, and be on the same team with yourself, with the one in you that is here to bring good change and rebel against the oppressive systems, not what you know inherently deep within yourself is righteous and good for you and humanity at large. All right. Aho amenase. I love you guys. Thank you for being here, for your presence, for your time. I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed, abundant day that is just filled with miraculous left field opportunities, gifts, money, love, whatever it is that's most meant for you at this time. Go be your best friend today, babies.